Right. So today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of American Express. Yeah,
AmEx.
Amex. You know, the company with that super exclusive black card?
Right, the Centurion card?
Yeah. The one that basically screams, I'm rich.
Mhm.
You see it in movies and stuff. It's
That's
like
like a status
it's
symbol.
a total status symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably, I mean, I've definitely fantasized about whipping it out to
Huh.
pay for, pretty much anything. But
It's amazing how they've built this whole aura of mystique around their brand,
yeah.
They've really mastered premium branding, made their cards aspirational, especially
Yeah.
that Centurion card.
Yeah, it's a brilliant strategy for sure. But what's crazy is that this financial powerhouse, this company that we associate with like,
High rollers?
yeah, high rollers and like fancy airport lounges,
Yeah.
they started out as something
Completely different.
totally different.
Back in 1850, Amex wasn't about finance at all. They were a super basic express mail service. They were like,
Like the Pony Express?
kinda, yeah,
Yeah.
transporting goods across America. They were like the OG Amazon delivery drivers, but with stagecoaches instead of those vans.
Wow. So how did they transform from like delivering packages to this huge financial giant?
It's a pretty wild story. It all started in the late 1800s. In 1882, they started doing money orders.
Money orders.
Yeah, cheaper and safer alternative.
Like Western Union?
No, actually, it was to what the U.S. Post Office was offering at the time.
Oh, interesting.
Then in 1891, they introduced traveler's checks.
Which like blew up.
Yeah, total game changer.
That was a huge turning point for them, right? I mean, traveler's checks were so popular.
Yeah, paved the way for everything they do now, basically. Travel and financial services.
Yeah. But then World War I happened.
Oh, yeah.
And
Big curveball.
huge curveball, 1918.
Yeah, the government took control of all the express operations,
Oh, wow.
which, totally shut down their main business.
That sounds like that could have been the end for them.
You'd think, right? But it
Good.
actually ended up being a good thing. Well, they were already messing around with financial stuff, with the money orders and traveler's checks, and now they had to go all in on that side of the business.
Yeah.
It kind of forced them to become a financial powerhouse.
Wow. So a setback that actually launched them forward.
Exactly. And then came 1958. This was a big year for Amex, but also for the entire credit card industry.
Like 1958. Why?
The purple card,
Oh.
the travel and entertainment card, T&E card.
Oh, yeah.
It was huge. 500,000 people signed up in just the first 3 months.
Wow. And then those iconic green, golds, and platinum cards came out.
Yep,
They really knew how to create that feeling of prestige and exclusivity.
they did. And that leads us to what really makes Amex different from all the other credit card companies. Their spend-centric business model.
Spend-centric.
Yeah.
So I got to be honest, I'm not totally sure what that means.
Okay, so imagine this. Visa and MasterCard are like these giant fishing nets trying to catch as many fish as possible, right?
Yeah.
Issuing billions of cards, focus on volume, tons of transactions. Amex is more like a spear fisherman.
Oh.
They want specific, high-value fish.
Okay, so they're going after the big spenders.
Exactly. Amex wants to make as much money as they can from each cardholder. So they invest a lot in perks and benefits to keep those big spenders happy and spending more.
So it's like quality over quantity.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially with those big annual fees they charge, especially for the premium cards. But how does this whole spend-centric thing actually work?
So one of the key ways is their closed-loop network.
Closed loop.
Yeah. Visa and MasterCard are kind of like middlemen between banks and merchants.
Okay.
Amex controls the whole process. Issue the cards, process the payments, set the fees for businesses that want to accept their cards.
It's like their own little club with their own rules.
It is. And here's the interesting part. Amex charges merchants way higher fees than Visa or MasterCard to accept their cards.
Whoa, really? That sounds kind of shady. Why would any business agree to that?
It's a gamble, but it often pays off for the merchants because Amex cardholders spend a lot more than the average person.
Okay.
So even though those fees are higher, they usually make up for it with bigger purchases.
So it's a risk for everyone, but it seems to be working for Amex.
It is. They've created this cycle. They get those big spenders with nice rewards, which then makes them spend more revenue for Amex, makes those premium merchant fees worth it.
So a win-win for Amex and their cardholders.
Pretty much, although maybe not so much for the merchants.
Right. It sounds like they figured out how to create a premium brand and build customer loyalty. But I'm curious, how did these higher fees and their focus on wealthy customers affect their overall financial performance compared to the giants, like Visa and MasterCard?
That's a great question, and we're going to dive into that.
Okay.
But first,
Yeah.
let's talk about the Black Card.
Yes, the Centurion. Everyone wants to hear about this.
It's super secretive, which just makes it more appealing.
Yeah.
It's invitation only.
You can't even apply.
Nope. You have to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on other Amex cards to even be considered.
Oh, wow.
Then, even if you get invited, there's a $5,000 initiation fee.
$5,000 just to get the card.
Yep.
And I'm guessing the annual fee isn't cheap either.
You guessed it. $2,500 a year.
Oh, wow. To keep that black card in your wallet.
It's all about exclusivity and prestige. They're not just selling a credit card, they're selling a lifestyle.
Yeah. And that exclusivity, combined with their unique business model, seems to be working for them. But how do they actually stack up against those giants, Visa and MasterCard? Let's get into their financial performance and see how they compare in this competitive market.
Well, in terms of sheer size, Amex is definitely the little guy.
Right.
They only have about 114 million cards out there.
Yeah.
Compared to Visa, which has like 3.3 billion.
Oh, wow. That's...
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
So does that mean they're behind financially?
Not really. Remember, they get more revenue per card holder. So in 2023, even though they had way fewer cards, they still made a ton of money, like $60.5 billion in revenue.
$60.5 billion. That's
a lot.
That's a lot. And so they're actually making more per card than Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah. And their stock is doing great, too. Amex has been hitting all-time highs lately.
So investors are happy.
They are. It seems like they have a lot of faith in Amex's plan for the future.
That's impressive. But things change so fast, especially with all these new fintech companies popping up.
Right.
Are they doing anything to keep up?
Oh, yeah. They know the financial world is changing. They're investing a ton in technology.
Okay.
Always updating their apps and online stuff to make things easy for their customers.
So they're not just stuck in the past.
Nope. And they're expanding globally, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, big time. They actually just became the first U.S. credit card company to be allowed to operate in mainland China.
Whoa, China's a huge market.
Exactly. And they're trying to get more millennials on board, too.
Okay. How are they doing that?
Partnering with brands millennials like Uber, Delta Airlines, offering travel perks and rewards that younger people want.
So they're trying to be more modern.
They are. They know they got to attract those younger spenders.
Yeah, who value experiences over, like, material things.
Exactly. But all this talk about big spending and rewards,
Yeah.
doesn't that seem risky?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. Like, what about defaults? Or if the economy takes a hit?
Well, they're very careful about who they give cards to, especially those premium cards.
Right, like the Centurion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want people with great credit histories.
So they're picky.
Very picky, and it shows in their numbers. They have way lower delinquency rates than other banks.
So people are paying their bills.
They are, which makes investors feel good.
Okay. So their risk management seems pretty solid.
It is. It's a big part of their success, but of course, no business is perfect.
Right. So what challenges are they up against? They're competing with some big names.
Yeah, even with all their success, Amex is still facing some hurdles. Like we said, their market share is tiny compared to Visa and MasterCard.
Right.
And those guys are always innovating, too. Trying to get a piece of that premium market Amex has.
It's like a constant battle.
It is. And then there's the whole fintech thing.
The new companies.
Right. The disruptors, they're shaking things up.
I mean, like Apple Pay and stuff.
Yeah, things like that. And the buy now, pay later services.
Oh, yeah. Like Klarna and Affirm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're changing the way people think about paying for things.
Yeah, it's so easy to split up payments now.
And sometimes there's no interest.
Yeah, it's tempting.
It is. So Amex has to figure out how to compete with that.
Well, yeah, their whole model is based on credit cards.
Right. So they need to be creative, maybe partner with some of these fintech companies.
Or create their own versions of these things.
Exactly. Adapt or get left behind, right?
Yeah, it seems like Amex is being challenged from all sides.
They are. Makes you wonder if they can stay on top.
Well, they've been around for almost 200 years, right?
Yeah. They've survived a lot. Wars, recessions, all kinds of stuff.
They've seen it all.
They have. And they always find a way to not just survive, but thrive.
So you think they'll figure it out?
I think they have a good shot. They have a strong brand and loyal customers.
And they're not afraid to change.
Nope. Going from a mail service to a global financial powerhouse.
That's quite a journey.
It is. Shows how adaptable they are. But the question is, can they stay the king of premium credit cards? Can they handle the competition and all the new technology?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. And we're going to explore that more in just a bit. But first, let's take a closer look at those fintech companies that are shaking things up. Are they a real threat to Amex? I think it's important to remember that disruption isn't always a bad thing.
Okay.
Sometimes it can actually push companies to do new things, be more innovative.
So you're saying these fintech companies could actually help Amex?
Yeah, in a way. Like, think about mobile payments.
Like Apple Pay.
Exactly. Apple Pay, Google Pay, super popular, especially with younger folks.
Yeah.
If Amex wants to stay in the game, they got to make sure their cards work with those platforms.
Right. Got to adapt to how people are paying these days.
Exactly. And then there's buy now, pay later,
Oh, yeah.
like Affirm and Klarna,
Yeah.
changing the way people think about financing stuff.
Yeah. No more big credit card bills.
Right. You can spread out the payments, sometimes even with zero interest.
I've definitely used those
It's
services.
super convenient, right?
Yeah. But how does Amex compete with that? I mean, their whole business is credit cards and interest.
That's the challenge. They got to figure out how to add these new models to what they offer.
So maybe partner up with some of these fintech companies.
Yeah, maybe. Or come up with their own versions of these services.
So basically, they got to be flexible and keep up with the trends.
Yeah, or they'll lose customers to these newer companies.
Okay, so adapt or die, basically.
Pretty much. But hey, Amex has been around forever.
Yeah, almost 200 years.
They've always found a way to reinvent themselves.
From stagecoaches to money orders to traveler's checks to credit cards.
Exactly. Who knows what they'll come up with next?
Yeah, it's kind of exciting.
It is. They're at a crossroads right now. The decisions they make will shape their future.
High stakes.
Very high stakes, but I have a feeling they'll figure it out.
They're fighters.
They are. They've built a really strong brand, and they have a lot of loyal customers.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to try new things.
So it sounds like Amex is a company that never stops evolving.
Definitely. Always pushing the boundaries.
It's been fascinating to learn about their journey, from a simple mail service to a global financial powerhouse.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing story.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of American Express.
Hope you enjoyed it.
I think the big takeaway here is that Amex is a company that's always changing, always adapting to stay ahead of the game.
And it'll be interesting to see what they do next.
Absolutely. Will they stay on top of the premium credit card world? Or will these new fintech companies take over? Who knows? Maybe they'll even offer a deep dive discount on that Centurion card.
That would be something.
Yeah, one can dream right. But for now, we want to hear from you. What do you think the future holds for Amex? Share your predictions and join the conversation.